Hi, my name is Jason Morgan. Welcome into my studio, and today something a little bit different. I'm doing a product test on a couple of pastel pencils that are kind of mid-range of the price. Some of the more expensive pastel pencils I've tried out, some of the really expensive ones, and I just don't seem to get on with them. I don't like the texture, but the mid-range seem to perform much better with the type of techniques that I like, and I've created some decent artwork using these, so you don't have to go out and pay extortionate amount of money to get the real high-end pastel pencils. So the ones I'm going to be testing today are ones at least you've probably heard of. PITT pastel pencils. I'm also testing the KOH-I-NOOR Carbothello pastel pencils, and another one you may not have heard of is Gioconda by KOH-I-NOOR, and that's a Czechoslovakian make. I probably said it wrong, but that's how it looks when you read it off the tin. And I'm going to try them out, and the things I'm going to look at are things that are quite important to us, for me at least. How they lay down actually on pastel matte paper, that's my favourite paper. How they blend, and I'm only going to do little marks on the paper, little studies on the paper. I'm not going to go doing big drawings for this. I'm just specifically testing the pencils. I also want to know how they sharpen as well. Lots of people sharpen with a blade. I much prefer sharpening with a crank handle sharpener, and not all pencils work with that type of sharpener. If the actual lead or the pastel in the pencils is too soft, then they're very, very prone to actually breaking them when you're using a crank handle, and all you've really got a choice of then is using a blade, which is very slow, and I don't particularly like that at all. So let's take a in-depth look at these pencils. Here's the pencils I'm going to be testing out. I got my PITT pastels there, I got the Gioconda there. My Carbothello is out of the tin now, and I keep them in a separate tray, but that's what they're going to look like. And I've pulled out just a couple of different colours so we can compare. But if I give you a bit of a rundown on some of these products so you can compare them yourself. So if I start with this Gioconda, they come in 48 is the maximum number per set, and I can just open that out so you can see exactly what they look like when you get them. So nice display inside. That's just saying about other products that they sell. You can lift these up, and underneath there you've got your second tray. More muted colours in the second tray, and more vibrant ones in the first. But it's a nice range, as you can see. The pencils have got a lovely glossy finish to them, nicely varnished. When you compare that against the PITT pastel, there you can see how much more matte they are, and that's a bit of a problem I find if I look at the Carbothello as well. Nice and shiny too, with the colour actually on the shaft. With the PITT ones, they do tend to get very dirty on this wood, as you can see, and these are going to clean up really nice. So if we go back to that, so if I pop the lid back on, I can talk you through a few things. As I said, maximum set number is 48, and the PITT pastels we've got 60, and when we look at the Carbothellos, they come in 60s as well. So 48 is not a massive range at all, but still a good range of colours. And as pastel artists, what we normally end up doing is buying lots of different sets and swapping and changing anyway. Lead size, so that's the actual amount of pastels we're getting inside these pencils. For the Gioconda we got 3.8mm leads, for the PITT we got 4.3, and for the Carbothellos we've got 4.4mm. So you're getting a little bit more pastel actually in the Carbothellos, but it's not a substantial difference. Lots ask about light fastness of the pencils. Now, pastels are generally very light fast anyway, just because they haven't got many additives and things in them. But sometimes it takes a bit of searching around to find on the websites if it's not stated on the pencil, the light fast. Carbothello is not. The Gioconda, I don't believe it is. I'll just double check. if they got a star rating actually on there, and there's not, but on the PITT we have got a star rating there, so it's a 3-star pencil. Only problem is with these star ratings, the Gioconda, they got a star rating going up to 4, the PITT have got a maximum of a 3-star rating, and then the Carbothello go up to a 5-star rating. So all of a sudden, straight away there's confusion there as to whether they match up with each other. But if I just talk through the Gioconda, so we've got 48 pencils, 28 of those have got the maximum 4-star rating, 16 have got a 3-star rating, and just 2 have got the 4-star, just 4 have got the 2-star rating, which is also classed as good for light fastness. With the Carbothello, we've got a 5-star rating then, 23 of them are 5-star, I've got 6 at 4-star, 18 at 3-star, 5 at 2-star, and I've also got 5 at a 1-star. Now 1-star according to them is called sufficiently light fast. There's 3 colours out of those 60 with no star rating whatsoever, so you may want to choose to remove those 3 if you're worried about light fastness. With the PITT pencils, we've got a 3-star rating then, 35 of them are in that 3-star rating, 11 a 2-star, and 14, which is quite a high number, have been given a 1-star rating. But how 1-star compares against all 3 different brands, who knows, because I don't think they're using the same testing procedure, and if they are, they're not using the same star numbers anyway. Okay, so let's have a little look how these 3 products are going to compare. So I've got a blue purple, and I've also got some yellows in the same brands, in different brands as well. So I've got some black lines there as well. I'm just going to use that to kind of see the opaqueness of the pastels. So if I start just lay some down, this is the PITT pastel. So the colours are not going to be identical, of course, because they're always a bit different. I'm just going to blend a little bit with my finger as well, because pastels are all about blending. So that's the PITT. Next up I'll do the Gioconda. Actually feels a little bit softer straight off. Seems to be much more vibrant as well, as you can see. I'll just blend that too. Lovely and smooth. And the Carbothellos, which I've used for about a year now, feels similar to the Gioconda for G by there, and a C for the Carbothello. I'll give that a bit of a blend as well. So if I go back to this PITT, I'm wondering if that is actually a little bit harder. It's difficult to tell sometimes. Even when you're doing it like this, it can be difficult to tell. Just blend them with a different finger there. Not that dissimilar, although obviously the colours are different. But they're not a hard, some pastels can be very hard and scratchy, and these don't seem to be at all. So with the PITT, I'm going to now go across the black, go quite firmly. I figured the black line would show us how opaque these pastels would be. So that's the PITT. I'll do the Gioconda next. Once again, seems very, very vibrant, the Gioconda. And then the Carbothello. So on these initial quick tests, the PITT pastel seems to be that little bit less vibrant, which could be a bonus, maybe not. But you can look at the opacity and they all seem pretty much the same. You can see those black lines through them, all at around about the same level, I would say. Now when you sharpen pastel pencils, you can obviously use a blade, you can use a crank handle sharpener, and I got videos showing those. You can use small handheld sharpeners like this. This is a Carbothello one. Now these little pastel sharpeners, they generally give you a point such as this. So you can see you've got a small, quite sharply angled point. When you're using the crank handle sharpener, you get more of a point like that. Thing is, with the crank handle, you get more laid out, which I like, but it's obviously more prone to actually snap in. Now when you've got a coloured pencil, the actual nib, the lead is much harder than pastel, so it's much easier to get a very fine tip on it without the snapping of it. So you may want to use one of these to get more of an edge like that if you find any of the pencils snap quite frequently. So I'm just going to take a look at these now, and I'll start with the PITT, and I've got similar colours again, and I'm just going to do some fine lines with it. And generally when I'm doing fine lines, I'm spinning the pencil like that. So you can see I'm getting nice fine lines there with the PITT. The Gioconda is definitely that bit softer, not by much, but it is a bit softer. And the Carbothello, I haven't got such a sharp point on that one, but very similar to the Gioconda. They are very similar. The PITT seems to be that bit harder. So if I push a bit harder and perhaps even try to snap the end, perhaps I'll give us an idea of which one's really more brittle. So you can see that the PITT actually went then. Try the same with the Gioconda. So that's a nice sharply pointed. You can see that went quite easily. So that may be that bit harder. And the Carbothello, I'm pushing very hard on there, and that's not snapping at all. Now I've sharpened these up on the crank handle, so you can see that they've got that much longer shaft, so they're obviously going to be even more prone perhaps to break in now. So let's try the PITT. Again, let's just go in by here. And it's not snapping easily. I'm putting quite a bit of pressure on there, and that's a sharp point as well. Try the Gioconda. So that's doing it very light. Pushing harder, harder still, and that's holding up well too. And the Carbothello. Pushing quite hard on there. Just the tiniest bit of break in. I wouldn't normally be pushing this hard, but I'm just trying to prove a point. Let's go even harder. It's the PITT. And the Gioconda. Definitely a softer pastel. Very similar. Very difficult to tell the difference between the Gioconda and the PITT. So you can see they're both very similar, and even the PITT is not that dissimilar at all. So I'd be quite willing to mix and match those in my set without thinking one's going to be substantially softer or harder or behave differently than the other. Okay, so I'll quickly round this off now with the prices we can expect to pay, because obviously the reason I'm doing these three different types of mid-range is, especially in the USA, you can't generally get hold of all these things easily, so it's a good idea, or it's useful to actually have a bit of a choice in there. The prices I found are in pounds, so you'll have to check in your own country for the prices for yourself. So the Gioconda, as I said, the biggest set is 48, and that came in at, I found a price of just £41, so that's really good. That's something like 80 odd pence per pencil. The PITT comes in a maximum set of 60, and I found that at £67, and the Carbothello once again is a set of 60, and I found that at £60. If you want to match up roughly packs of 12, then for the Gioconda I found £8, for the PITT I found them at £13, and for the Carbothello I found at £15. So not a great difference between them price wise, not a massive difference with all the specs that I found. The Gioconda on the box has got non-toxic on there. There's no toxic materials in there at all. On the PITT pastel site I found certified non-toxic and safe, but I couldn't find anything on the Carbothello when I looked, not easily, but I should imagine they're all tested to the same health and safety regulations, I would have thought. But if you wanted to contact any of the companies just to double check if you're concerned about that. So hope this has just give you a quick demonstration. I know I've not done any a nice drawing or painting out of them, but I really wanted to just test them and see how they performed against each other. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll see you all again real soon. On my tutorial website, that's jasonmorgan.co.uk, I've got lots of full-length videos, some up to 8 or 9 hours long. I've got ebooks on there as well. If you're looking for reference photos, because sometimes it's really hard to get very good, decent, copyright-free reference photos you can paint and draw from. My website, www.wildlifeart-online.com, has got about 900 or more photographs on there. Or perhaps you'd like to join my art community, where every month I put up new videos, new reference photos, new wildlife line art. So that's patreon.com/wildlifeart. Love to see you on one of those soon, or even here on my YouTube channel.